Okay, hi. Hi everybody, thanks for being here at the Ambassador panel. We have 4 amazing ambassadors here from all over the world that help grow and support user groups, that help support OpenStack and grow open infrastructure. So we're gonna ask them a couple questions today. It's gonna be a back-to-back demo theater slot. So it's gonna be about 30 minutes and then we'll finish up with some audience Q&A at the end. So with that, let's kick it off. You guys wanna introduce yourselves? We'll start with Andy.
Hi, my name's Andy Botting. I'm the Australian ambassador. I'm working on the Nectar Research Cloud at the University of Melbourne. I'm new to the role, so I probably won't be able to answer all the questions, but I'm excited to be here.
Hi, my name is Marcelo. I am from Brazil, and I help with the countries in South America and Central America. I started as ambassador in 2013. Are 5 years, and I'm here to talk about this.
Hello, my name is Marton, and I'm based in Hungary, in Budapest. And basically, I started the user group in Hungary maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I don't remember exactly. And we used to run as well some OpenStack Days event there.
Hello, my name is Ilya Alexeyev. I'm from Russia, Moscow, and I started my first user group in Moscow in 2011, in spring.
Awesome, thanks. So I guess the first question, how did you get involved and how did you start your user group? Maybe Ilya, you want to start with that one?
Yeah, may I start?
Yeah.
I want to tell a little story about this ambassador thing. I think it happened in San Francisco summit maybe, or in San Diego. It was long time ago.
Hong Kong.
Not in Hong Kong, but Jonathan came to the stage and somehow out from the nowhere, he announced this ambassador program. And we started to ask about this ambassador program, but no one knew about this, anything in the world. And I remember once I met with him in London in a Green Park pub or something like that, and I mentioned this ambassador program to him, and he was looking very surprisingly to me. Oh, someone knows something about the ambassador program. Let's make it happen. So I think that was the original story how the ambassador program started, more or less.
So I started to talk to ambassadors with the Tom 5.2 in 2013 in websites. We talking in websites, ask OpenStack how we can help more the users, and we started to this program, and I applied and I was chosen to ambassador program. And I helped started the user group Brazil in 2011 with only 8 people, with only Nova and only Swift components of the OpenStack. And after that, we have about 2,000 people talking OpenStack in Brazil.
That's great.
I was involved in some planning aspects of the Sydney summit 6 months ago, and I was approached and asked if I'd be interested in taking on the ambassador role for Australia. I was sort of a little bit flattered and a little bit unsure, but I've taken the role, and as part of that, I'm going to be looking to try and kickstart the meetups again. They've been very quiet in Australia recently, so I'm looking forward to sort of engaging with the community and getting that started up again.
And I became an ambassador more than 1 year ago, maybe 1 year and a half. After running several user groups in Russia, and after experience with organizing several meetups and conferences in several cities in Russia. So I asked Martin about how do you think may I apply for an ambassador program? And Martin said yes.
Great. So what have been some of the most successful ways that you have found to expand your user groups in terms of, advertising and different sorts of outreach?
Yeah, I think every user group is very different because we have different technological background in the area and different cultural background. But in Hungary and in Europe, what I did, that I started to promote the OpenStack user group in some Python groups or MySQL or DevOps groups, and I could raise very well the membership number of the user group. Basically, when we started in the early days, I think it happened after the first Boston Summit, because my goal was to bring the spirit of the summit and all of this knowledge sharing culture to the country. And I think we were just 3 or 4 people in a small cafe. And I guess we have around more than 800 people. But Budapest is not a Silicon Valley, so it is a bit harder to grow the membership of the group. Mm-hmm. And the other very interesting aspect that we need to build up very good alliances with local companies who are interested in somehow in OpenStack or operating OpenStack or building OpenStack or providing services based on OpenStack.
Great.
So in Brazil, I think in other countries, one thing that's very important is the presence of the social networks. And we use a lot Facebook, Twitter, meetup.com, to expose the OpenStack events, to expose the people. And I think the best thing is to do that with the marketing to promote OpenStack events.
Well, almost the same in Russia. We are extensively using social networks, public channel, public chats in Messenger. Maybe you heard about Telegram Messenger. Of course, when you are organizing a meetup or conference and you're calling for information sponsor, that gives an ability to grow community because more people know about it. Mostly social networks, that's important thing, and payable advertisement in social networks is working too.
Good tips here, because I'll be using your advice here to kickstart our meetups. So, thanks.
Yeah, great. What types of content have you been focusing on lately, in terms of just OpenStack or more than OpenStack? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think in the early days it was just OpenStack, and in the first 1 or 2 years we tried to figure out what is OpenStack exactly. But after that, some real deployments appeared in the region. But in the recent 1 and 2 years, we feel that change, that some new platforms appeared like Kubernetes and container technologies, and we definitely feel this kind of change in the content and the topics, and we are talking OpenStack together with those platforms and technologies, how to use OpenStack with Kubernetes. And we have those kind of contents as well. But I think that kind of movement or changing and moving to this open infrastructure brand or way, it must happen to widen the audience of the technology.
Yeah, it's the same in Brazil. When we started, people went to events to know more about what is OpenStack, what is, how do work. But now, also Martin said, we have more people interested to use OpenStack, to use Kubernetes, to use Open Infra, and I think it's the same. This year we start with other subjects, but in Brazil the main subject is yet the OpenStack. Maybe next year we will have more subjects like Kubernetes.
Well, we try to make every conference and every meetup tell more about OpenStack and ecosystem. So if you have a product that's working with OpenStack, based on OpenStack, so you're welcome. You're welcome to make a presentation. You're welcome to talk about how you're using OpenStack. So that OpenStack and ecosystem is a very important thing that give us ability to growing. And last 3 years, important part is containers. Containers still growing interesting, but this trend only started in Russia.
Great. What sort of challenges have you experienced in the past couple of years trying to implement this new open infrastructure direction?
I actually not feel any challenges. I think the most important thing that we need to rebrand somehow in the future, near future, or user groups, and need to reach out to all of their peoples. But I think we can repeat the same pattern, that reaching out the connected user groups to DevOps groups, where those people who are doing containers and those new technologies are reachable and they are present there.
And we have started to make a synergy with DevOps groups and Kubernetes groups. And one of challenges, because in Russia is always unstable situation, so bring OpenStack days to Russia eventually. I hope it could be OpenStack days or Open Infrastructure days, and we will be happy if we will see more speakers outside of Russia, because I think this will be very interesting for the local audience.
Any other challenges you've experienced in just, leading your user groups in general, or?
I think the most challenge is find people. Find people with free time to help you with the organize all things. Generally, the people that work with the community use your free time to do this. So I think this is the most challenge, because if you find people to help you with the things, with you organize your financial subject, is better. But I think the most challenge to organize groups is the find people with free time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me give additional. You're right. Finding the drivers of local user groups in different cities, that's very difficult thing in general, because not so much people want to invest their own personal time in community. Some people starting to doing this, but eventually losing interest in this. So finding people is always, finding drivers of communities is always a hard thing.
Yeah, I think this part is working very well in Hungary, and it was a fantastic situation to see after the first 2 years that the user group started to act as a real community, and people simply had activities outside of the OpenStack user group. And maybe, for example, we organized a road trip from Budapest to the Barcelona summit with user group members. Mm-hmm. So it is really fun, and we had those moments in the user group's life.
Yeah. How frequent are some of your meetups? Andy, I know you're still a little new to this, but how frequently do you organize meetups?
Now in Brazil, we are doing one OpenStack day each year. But one thing that we do that is online meetups. It's better to organize because you can share the people and invite some expert in OpenStack to present some subject. So each month online meetups and one OpenStack day each year.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I have a good story from the old times when guys started to organize the meetup, the user group in Poland, and at the first meeting there was a lot of people, and I think they invited someone from the Silicon Valley who joined through Hangouts. At the end of his sessions, he started to ask questions about the audience. And it is a very typical Eastern European cultural thing that people don't like to upfront answer to those questions. And for the next time, only one people showed up in the event because they were fearing that they need to stand up and answer to questions. So then this guy decided to convert his meetup to an online OpenStack user group. So it happened. And I think it is very important to focus on the local cultural differences, how we are organizing the things there.
You know, almost the same in Russia. In different cities, we have different regularities of meetups, and we're trying to make some experiment. For example, I've tried to make a meetup in Moscow every month, and first meetup was 100 people that attended. In second meetup, we have only 40 registered people. So it looks like that's too fragment for Moscow. So that's different from country to country and different from city to city.
Yeah, got it.
I just wanted to ask a question. Actually, you mentioned having online meetups. What does that look like? What's the structure of your online meetups?
We use Google Hangout, for example, and we invite someone to talk in 1 hour about the subject, and we invited all the people. So we had 10 attendants or 20, 40, I don't know, depend of the subject.
Yeah, because the Hangout some limitation on that.
Yes, to participate, to talk yet, but you can share with YouTube, and you can transmit with you.
Yeah.
So it was all over video conferencing?
Yeah.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, great idea. It definitely helps when you're so spread out. Well, with all that in mind, what are some of your goals going forward into the next year? Maybe Andy can speak a little bit to this since I know he's a little bit newer, but yeah, tell me about your goals.
Well, my first goal is to get the meetups going again, kind of reignite the community. I've been in touch with a couple of businesses that are new to OpenStack or branching out. So I'd really like to engage with them, make sure that they're comfortable with OpenStack, and maybe if they have sort of questions or needs that aren't being addressed, I think that there's a role there for me to be maybe like a conduit for them to be able to get access to the foundation, for example, for support or for any questions that they might have. Just trying to get some more energy around the community, I think.
I think the main goals to this year or next year is to do regular meetups and the regular events. Also, we are trying to invite the universities to share OpenStack, to share with the students, because it's a good place to show the OpenStack, to show the open infra, and I think it's this.
Yeah, for the next 1 year, we definitely want to do this rebranding thing and change a little bit the direction. The other very interesting story that the next summit will happen in Berlin. So we are based in Europe, so we like to help a little bit to promote this event. And Berlin is very close to Budapest. It is just a 1 hour flight.
Yeah.
So I think we can get some attendees to the event as well.
Be great.
Well, as I said, we want to bring OpenStack Days or Open Infra Days to Russia and make an event that can join all the people from Commonwealth of Independent States, from Belarus, or maybe Kazakhstan, or maybe another countries, and another challenge and plan to find more drivers for local communities, because that's a hard thing, and we're trying to do this all the time. And as Martin said, I think next goal to find good conversation with different communities like DevOps, like Kubernetes communities, maybe some joint some common events that we can make with these communities.
Another thing that I remember now is the hackathons. Hackathons is a good way to share with the people the OpenStack and invite the students. In last year we did a hackathon in Rio. Denise helped us a lot to do this, and we had about 150 people developing solutions using OpenStack. So I think is another thing that local community can do to share, invite the people to work with OpenStack.
Yeah, that's great. So what tips do you have for people, when they're starting or growing their user groups, things that they should or should not do?
I'm all ears for this one.
Yeah, I think the first point that he needs to know how the local community is working, how other user groups are working. And definitely what shouldn't do, I really used to suggest to avoid any direct promotion or sales speeches on the user group events. So if the community is healthy, then they can share their knowledge between each other without any direct promotion, because it is a community event. The other thing I suggest to do to build up a healthy organizer group inside the user group. So try to avoid the situation when you are trying to run a user group as a one-man show, because it requires a lot of organizational tasks, especially organizing the events and inviting the people. And maybe if someone is traveling or not available, it is much healthier in longer term for the user group if you have at least 2 or 3 people who is helping in the organizational tasks.
I always suggest the people start with small events. We can start with a small event and talk about some subject, but it's important to be organized. If you organize well the event or the meeting, it's a good point to start. And after, naturally, your user group you grow more.
Well, what can I say? You can start from online community to find the people that's interesting in OpenStack, open infrastructure. Try to meet these people, for example, on a bar with a glass of beer and talk with them. Try to talk with the local companies. Local companies is always people that interesting in the community. And as I say, Martin, don't try to make much marketing on your events, because your events is about knowledge sharing. Your events is about if we're talking about companies, one of this thing that's important for companies, they can find partnership on your events. So that's not the marketing pitches, that's the knowledge sharing my point of view.
Great, thanks so much. Well, that's all the questions I have, but I wanted to look to the audience for any questions that they might have.
A lot of questions.
Well, that's all right too. There's no. Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. So you said, how can the foundation better support ambassadors? Okay.
Do we have enough time to discuss this topic?
Well, actually, I have a great answer for that. We're actually doing I have two microphones on right now. We're actually doing a community forum session tomorrow afternoon. If you guys want to stop by, it's called let me see if I get this right, the User Community Leadership Planning session. So it's during the forum, and we'll be talking about how the user committee, ambassadors, and foundation can all better work together. And kind of going forward, defining these roles and making different improvements. So if you want to be a part of that conversation, please come by. But other than that, thank you.
Thank you.